If you're a parent, come closer. I have a message for you. Stop working so hard only to send your kids to school to go and be killed. Stop sending your kids to school to go and be bullied and damaged. Stop paying so much money only for your kids to go and be abused in school. This is your cue to consider homeschooling. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Individualized. If you're seeing me for the first time, hi. Thank you for stopping by. But if you're a returning viewer, thank you very much for coming back. Okay. So on this channel, we discuss social issues as it affects human beings generally. All right. Please like, share, comment on this video. Let me know what your thoughts are. And most especially subscribe. So I noticed that in Nigeria, we actually do not consider homeschooling as an effective way of obtaining formal education. I mean, it's weird because if you do your research, you'd discover that most people abroad, most Westerners homeschool their kids. In the UK, they have a good percentage of parents homeschooling their children. And then they have a school that they're registered with, they just show up when it's time for exams or maybe a test, just to examine how well the child is doing. Now, homeschooling is basically you teaching your child what they're supposed to be learning in school, rather from home. Okay? And I personally think it has a whole lot of benefits. Now, let's talk about the advantages of homeschooling. First of all, your child gets to learn one on one. You know, they get that attention that they would never get in class. Putting 30 to 50 students in one class and teaching them generally, you'd not be able, it would be difficult for a teacher to notice that this child is not learning at the same pace with the other child. Okay. And it's also difficult for them to know if what their level of absorption, how they absorb the information that they are being given in class, how fast or how slow. Okay. So, but if you're homeschooling, you'll be able to notice that fast enough. That's why you see some children are being termed slow just because they can't catch up with the pace at which others learn. And at the end of the day, by the time they're being given exams in school, of course they'll definitely perform low, like their performance won't be good enough. Okay, which of course should be expected, but of course not, because there are people in class who do better. So the teacher will be like, so you were not listening, you're not paying attention. They'll think that this other child is not serious. Meanwhile, it is just the child is different. Okay? And it's the failure of the teacher to identify or to pay close attention. But if you're homeschooling your child, you'll be able to recognize, these differences early enough, and of course be able to come up with better ways to address every child's need. And again, homeschooling is very cheap. I mean, this is my best part actually. If you can afford to teach them by yourself, you know what that means? You're going to end up just picking up the textbooks that they need and the learning materials. And if you have noticed, I mean, if you're that kind of parents who, questions the cost of things in school, I'm sure you would have noticed, because I think I do. I don't have a child, but from my nieces and nephews, I look at the bill for books per term or per academic year, and I'm like, wow, what books are they using again? For somebody who has been to school and can easily just walk into a bookshop and get a book, and even some texts in the university don't cost as much as what those 5, 10, things that they give them in school would cost. So sometimes I I had to ask questions, and then you'd find out that these things actually you might get them for less than 5,000, but a school will tell you 45,000 for books. And by the time you go and discover the prices per book, and then you now multiply it times, the courses or the subjects that are being taught, you know that these people are robbing you in broad daylight. Okay. Apart from that, there is the aspect of school fees. Now, I particularly have an issue with parents having to pay so much for children who can barely even read, who can barely even, tell you their names. And then you're paying so much. For what exactly? And then that children who talk faster than the others. And then they're being put in the same class and being taught the same thing. So with homeschooling, you get to control what your child is being exposed to. The teachings, the kind of play, the kind of discussions we have with, you know, their siblings, because they won't be out there in school learning all manner of rubbish, and of course the teachers will not get to they don't get bullied anyhow. As a parent, you'd always notice when your children are beginning to get animalistic with each other, they're beginning to use words that they're not supposed to. But when they go out to school, you have no control over those things. As a matter of fact, you might be trying as a parent to control what they say and what they do not say to each other. But somebody in school will be saying even worse, will be, exposing them to way, way more um bad things, right? So homeschooling gives you total control to what they learn, to you know what they're being exposed to, the kind of things they see, or the kind of discussions we have as children, which, if you ask me, is everything. Considering that children learn so fast and they tend to pick up the negative things even fast. Homeschooling also takes away that unnecessary competition among peers. Okay, I know, competition can be a good thing. Having your child compete with their classmates, and trying to maybe have good grades, score well in whatever it is they're doing, perform well, it's totally fine. But there's also a lot of unnecessary competition, that puts a child under a lot of pressure, and in the process it crushes their self-esteem when it appears that they are not doing as well as their peers. And it could be very damaging. Yeah, it could be very damaging. And of course, we also have cases of bullying. Okay, the teachers get to bully your child just because they don't look a certain way, or just because you're not as wealthy as the other parent who come to tip them, or just because they are bitter. They're just really sad people. So they come out from wherever they're coming from and let out all of their frustrations on your innocent child, which shouldn't be condoned, really. With homeschooling, you'd be able to avoid this. And of course, the bullying among students. Students just gang up for whatever reason and bully, each other, or a particular child in a particular class for whatever reason. It could be skin color. I mean, I've read a lot of stories. It could be the way they talk. It could be the fact that the child is just different for, you know, for whatever reasons or circumstances of their birth. But then no child. I mean, not when they came to this world noticing that they're different. I'm sure it already has a psychological effect on them. So no child deserves to be reminded negatively about their, imperfections, or their inabilities. Really, is really not fair. Is not is totally uncalled for. So if you're homeschooling, this would have been avoided. And as a parent, you get the opportunity to constantly tell your children, to see positive things about themselves, no matter their looks or what their abilities are. Be able to control what they consume. It's just a whole lot of good stuff. Let me share this story with you. So I have this friend who told me how in her school, she went to one of the big short secondary school in town. If as a girl and you're like 12, you don't have a boyfriend, or you don't have tales, or sexual stories to tell your classmates about you and your boyfriend, then there is something wrong with you. People will be laughing at you and all. And this affected her in a way that she said that from either when she was 10 or when she was 12, she's always had multiple sexual partners. I mean, and she was struggling with it. And we're having this discussion when we're in university. So she was at that point trying to discipline herself to be able to date one person per time. So you can imagine the level of damage that your kids are being exposed to, or the level of nonsense that your kids are being exposed to in school. And then this is the same school that gives you sleepless nights, because you have to meet up with PTA meetings, parties, a whole lot, all those levies that never stops. And then, of course, there is the school fees. But then instead of them helping you build a decent child, they're damaging your child. Do you understand? There is a teacher, abusing the child, and there are other students, just spreading all the nonsense that they've been exposed to. So all of these and more are the advantages of homeschooling your child. I strongly believe you should consider it. I strongly believe we should embrace homeschooling. Really, because you really do not have so much to lose. But sending your child to go out there to school, there is so much to lose. Children are dying. Children are being taught all manner of nonsense. Children are being exposed to all manner of immorality. So would you not rather let them stay at home and learn? If you can teach them yourself, if not, get them a teacher. And then you can monitor them. If you cannot sit down and watch or be dropping from the next room, get cameras, connect them to your phone, to your laptop. That way, you can always catch up. At the end of every day or every week, you can always catch up and see what they're being exposed to, what the teacher is teaching them, and make your corrections if there is need to. I know that most of you will say, "Oh, if my child doesn't go to school, how is he or she going to socialize and make friends?" You go to church, Abby. There's something called children's hangout with parents. You just hang out, go for a picnic or something. There is something called French, what is it called? French schools where they do in the evenings for like an hour or two, where children go and learn either music or whatever, really, whatever. There is something called clubs, press clubs. People do these things in their neighborhood, reading clubs, whatever, dancing club and all of that they can belong to, that that, oh, the most time they spend together outside is 1 to 2 hours and then they are back home. There are better ways to you know um make friends, socialize, get to meet other people, so your child will not be shy, your child will not will not be introverted automatically. See, if I am to be sincere with you, homeschooling is actually the best in this time and age that a whole lot is going on. People's children are being poisoned in school. People are dying, being electrocuted in school, being bullied. That is why we have a lot of bitter people with low self esteem, people who rarely believe in themselves just because a bunch of non-entities told them that or made them believe that right from when they were children, or constantly told them that, because you sometimes these children get to spend years in a particular school with a particular set of classmates or colleagues or whatever, and they constantly tell them that they're not good enough, that they're not smart enough. So what you expect at the end of the day is going to be damaging to the man and the women that they were born to be, growing up. So that's why we have a lot of damaged people going around hurting other people or damaging other people too. Broken people break people. Broken people break people. That's it. Looking at it from the beginning to the end, there is really no reason why you shouldn't. Yeah. So thank you very much for watching, and this is me signing out.